Have you ever wondered why the very thing that gives you the most pleasure is also the thing that terrifies you the most? Why something as simple as desire can make your pulse race, your mind scatter, your logic dissolve into silence? The secret isn't in what you feel, it's in what you avoid feeling. We live in a world that worships pleasure publicly, but shames it privately. You see it everywhere, and in music, in screens, in the quiet fantasies people never speak aloud. And yet, when that same energy rises within, society tells you to push it down. Hide it. Deny it. For centuries, religion, culture, and even education have taught humanity to fear the body, to silence the language of sensation. You are told that desire is dangerous, that it leads to ruin, that it distracts you from higher things. But what if that's a lie? What if the very energy we've been taught to repress is the same force that can awaken us to who we truly are? Because deep inside you, under the noise, under the guilt, there is a quiet fire that refuses to die. A whisper that says, there's more to life than this half-existence. That whisper is not evil. It's your body remembering something that your mind has forgotten. Pleasure is not the enemy of the soul. It's the key to awakening it. The ancient Tantric masters knew this truth thousands of years ago. They saw what modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover, that desire is not just biological, it's spiritual energy in motion. Every spark of passion, every heartbeat of attraction, every ache of longing is not a distraction. It's a message from your higher self, reminding you that you are alive. But what have we done with that energy? We've buried it under fear, shame, and control. We've labeled natural urges as sin, and then created industries to secretly sell them back to us. Distorted, commodified, and empty. We seek pleasure in excess, but never in essence. We chase stimulation but forget connection. We consume but never transform. And that's the tragedy. Most people never open the forbidden door. They live half awake, half numb, caught between temptation and guilt, chasing pleasure in secret but never allowing it to awaken them. You can see it everywhere. In the man scrolling endlessly through screens, looking for a momentary escape. In the woman pretending she's fine, while her heart silently aches for depth and meaning. In the lovers who share bodies but not souls, who touch but never truly feel. We've mistaken suppression for purity, and indulgence for freedom. But neither suppression nor indulgence leads to liberation. Both are prisons. One starves the soul, the other drowns it. True freedom begins when you stop running, when you dare to face your own desire with open eyes. You see, pleasure is a teacher, but only if you listen. It's not here to control you. It's here to reveal you. When you feel pleasure, something ancient stirs, a memory of wholeness. For a brief moment, your mind stops. The endless chatter fades. And what's left is presence, and pure, radiant, wordless presence. That's why people chase it. Not for the act itself, but for the moment of silence that follows, when everything else disappears and only being remains. But that silence, that stillness, is not found by escaping into pleasure. It's found by entering it consciously. When you stop using pleasure as an escape and start experiencing it as a mirror, it becomes a path. A path back to yourself. Because desire isn't random, it's intelligent. It's your soul's way of calling attention to the parts of you that are asleep. When you crave touch, connection, beauty, passion, it's not just lust. It's longing for aliveness, for union, for remembrance. It's your inner energy, trying to wake up the divine that's sleeping inside you. But society never taught us how to handle that kind of energy. It only taught us to fear it. And fear creates control. The moment you fear your own desire, you become divided, pulled between your nature and your conditioning. That division breeds shame, guilt, and repression always comes with a cost. When energy cannot flow upward, it turns inward, twisting into anxiety, addiction, or numbness. That's why so many people feel disconnected, restless, and empty, even when they have it all. They're not missing pleasure, though they're missing presence within pleasure. Tantra, in its truest form, was never about indulgence. It was about integration. It teaches that every physical sensation is an opportunity for awakening. That when you meet your desire with awareness instead of judgment, you turn instinct into insight. You begin to realize that the same energy that drives lust can also fuel creativity, compassion, and consciousness itself. It's the same force that moves a painter's hand, that writes a poem, that builds empires and births universes. The energy of life, erotic, electric, divine, but the only way to access that power is to stop fearing it. To stop dividing yourself into holy and unholy, because when you split your nature, you fracture your power. You were not meant to live divided. You were meant to burn whole, body, mind, and spirit as one unified flame. That's what it means to open the forbidden door. It's not about crossing a moral line, it's about crossing a psychological one. The line between fear and freedom, between repression and realization. And once you open it, you'll notice something profound. Pleasure was never outside you. It was never about someone else or something else. It was always a reflection, a sacred mirror showing you your capacity to feel, to surrender, to awaken. And that's where true transformation begins. Not in denying desire and not in drowning in it, but in meeting it fully, consciously, without fear. Because once you do, the very thing you were taught to suppress becomes the very key to your liberation. The forbidden door was never meant to be locked. It was only waiting for you to be brave enough to turn the handle. When was the last time you allowed yourself to truly feel something, without rushing, without guilt, without wondering what it meant? When your skin tingled, your chest warmed, your breath slowed, did you notice? Or did you instantly move on, afraid of what that moment might awaken? Pleasure has become one of the most misunderstood forces in human history. We treat it like a guilty secret, a temporary escape, something to chase in the shadows. Yet the truth is far simpler and infinitely more profound. Pleasure is awareness made visible. It is consciousness remembering itself through the body. When you touch another hand, when music shivers through your spine, when a kiss blurs the line between self and other. What's really happening? It's not just chemistry or hormones. It's life recognizing itself in another form. It's energy meeting energy, soul meeting soul, even if just for a breath. In its purest form, pleasure was never meant to enslave you. It was meant to wake you. But somewhere along the way, humanity forgot. We built temples of intellect and called them progress. We celebrated logic, reason, and productivity, but in doing so, we began to distrust the body, the very vessel through which life is experienced. We created a world that rewards exhaustion and shames ecstasy. We glorify work and hide pleasure behind closed doors, labeling it selfish, lazy, or dangerous. And so people grow up disconnected from their own senses. They know how to think, but not how to feel. They can achieve, but not receive. They live entirely in the head, while the heart, the body, and the spirit quietly starve. But here's the paradox. Every time you deny yourself pleasure, you also deny yourself presence, because the body is always in the now. It doesn't live in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears. It lives in the rhythm of breath, in heartbeat, in sensation. Pleasure anchors you in that rhythm. It brings you home. That's why ancient Tantric masters treated pleasure as sacred, because it was the most direct portal to awareness. When you allow yourself to fully experience pleasure without clinging to it or escaping from it, the mind dissolves into stillness. You become here completely for the first time. But most people never reach that depth because they don't know how to hold that kind of energy. They consume it. They chase bigger thrills, louder highs, faster relief. They confuse stimulation with connection. They try to fill a spiritual hunger with physical excess, and the more they feed, the emptier they feel. The Tantric path reverses that. It teaches you to slow down, to stop devouring the moment and start tasting it, to receive pleasure without losing yourself inside it. Because when you stop grasping, pleasure expands. It becomes vast, silent, luminous. It turns from something you do into something you are. Think of it like fire. In untrained hands, fire burns, destroys, consumes. But in conscious hands, it gives warmth, cooks food, brings light. Pleasure is that same fire. It's neither good nor bad. It's the intention that shapes its nature. When you learn to stay present with your sensations, without rushing toward climax, without needing to label or control, you begin to feel energy move through your body in ways you never imagined. What once felt physical becomes vibrational. What once felt fleeting becomes eternal. You sense waves of life itself rising and falling within you, carrying you into deeper dimensions of peace. And this isn't just poetry, it's physiology. When you allow pleasure consciously, your nervous system relaxes. The walls you built between mind and body start to fall. The energy that was trapped in fear begins to circulate, nourishing your cells, rewiring your brain, healing old wounds you didn't even know you still carried. Because pleasure is medicine. It dissolves tension, melts trauma, and teaches the body to trust life again. But for that to happen, you must stop using pleasure to escape yourself and start using it to meet yourself. The difference is subtle but life-changing. Escaping through pleasure means numbing. Meeting yourself through pleasure means awakening. So how do you begin? You start by slowing down, by listening, by noticing how the simplest sensations feel when you remove judgment, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of rain against the window, the taste of something sweet, the rhythm of your own breath. These are not trivial moments, they are entry points. Each one is a doorway to awareness. The more you honor them, the more your sensitivity returns. And sensitivity is not weakness, it's power. Because sensitivity is what allows you to feel the divine pulsing through ordinary life. Once, long ago, people celebrated this sensitivity. They saw the body not as a burden, but as a bridge between heaven and earth. Every gesture, every dance, every act of love was a prayer, a way to participate in creation itself. That is what Tantra means at its core, expansion through experience. To touch life so fully that the boundaries between self and universe begin to blur. And when you experience pleasure in that way, not as indulgence but as communion, you stop chasing it, because you realize it was never something to be gained, only remembered. Pleasure is not the opposite of discipline, it's the evolution of it. It doesn't weaken you, it refines you. It makes you more aware, more compassionate, more alive. It teaches you balance because true pleasure cannot exist without presence. In that state, desire becomes devotion. Attraction becomes awareness. Every touch becomes sacred. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every heartbeat a reminder that you are both human and divine. This is the forgotten power of pleasure, not a hedonistic escape, but a spiritual return. A return to your body, your senses, your truth. And when you finally understand that, when you stop apologizing for your own aliveness, something incredible happens. The shame that once haunted you begins to disappear. You start to trust your own rhythm again. You begin to see that your body is not separate from your soul. It is the instrument through which your soul sings. And that song, the song of pleasure, presence and awareness, is the sound of awakening itself. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you desire what you desire? Not what you want, but why you want it. Every desire carries a secret message. It's not random, not meaningless. It's a reflection of something much deeper within you, something your conscious mind might not yet understand. Desire is a mirror. And like all mirrors, it doesn't lie. It shows you the truth, the parts of your soul that are yearning to wake up. But most people never dare to look into it, because what they see often scares them. They see hunger, longing, obsession. They see their shadows, the parts they've been told to hide. So instead of facing desire, they suppress it. They bury it under discipline or disguise it behind spirituality, pretending they're above such things. But you can't transcend what you refuse to face. When you reject desire, you reject a piece of yourself. And the more you reject, the more fragmented you become. You start to live like a ghost, achieving things, playing roles, but feeling empty inside. You keep busy enough to avoid silence, because silence makes you feel your longing again. And that longing is uncomfortable. But that longing is the doorway. You see, desire isn't here to enslave you. It's here to reveal you. The ancient mystics understood this. They didn't demonize desire. They studied it. They watched it with the eyes of awareness. Because they knew, what you crave most intensely is not the thing itself, but the state of being you think it will bring you. You don't truly desire the person or the object, or the goal. You desire the feeling that comes with it. Love, freedom, safety, power, connection, every desire. At its root is the soul's attempt to return to wholeness. That's why suppressing desire never works. It doesn't die. It just hides. And when it hides, it turns dark. It becomes manipulation, addiction, obsession, or shame. It tries to express itself through shadows instead of light. But when you bring awareness to desire, when you can feel it fully without acting impulsively, something miraculous happens. The same energy that once pulled you down begins to lift you up. It transforms from lust into love, from craving into clarity, from attachment into awakening. This is the art of seeing yourself through the mirror of desire. Let's take an example. Imagine you're deeply drawn to someone. You can't stop thinking about them. The attraction feels magnetic, even irrational. You tell yourself it's chemistry, but on a deeper level it's a mirror. Ask yourself, what is this person reflecting to me? Is it a quality I've lost touch with? Confidence, freedom, sensuality, courage, mystery. Is it a part of myself that I've suppressed for too long? Because often, desire is not about the other person at all. It's your soul showing you the parts of you that want to be reclaimed. That's why so many relationships become painful. We expect others to give us what we haven't yet awakened within ourselves. But no one can complete you. They can only reveal where you are incomplete. And that revelation, though it hurts, is sacred. When you use desire consciously, it becomes a teacher. It shows you where you're still asleep, where you're still attached, where you still mistake temporary pleasure for lasting peace. It points out your illusions, but it also points toward your potential, because at its highest form, desire is not about possession. It's about recognition. It's the soul recognizing itself through another form of life. You see beauty, because beauty is within you. You crave freedom, because freedom is your nature. You long for love, because love is what you are. When you understand this, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing and start observing. You stop needing and start knowing. You no longer see desire as a trap, but as a compass pointing toward your awakening. Every craving becomes a question. What is this feeling trying to teach me about myself? And when you stay with that question, not judging, not rushing, just observing, desire slowly reveals its deeper layer. It becomes transparent. What once looked like lust becomes longing for connection. What once looked like greed becomes longing for safety. What once looked like control becomes longing for freedom. And in that awareness, you begin to integrate the lost pieces of yourself. This is the true alchemy of desire, turning shadow into light, instinct into insight, impulse into wisdom. But remember, this transformation doesn't happen through suppression or indulgence. It happens through presence. The Tantric sages would say, don't run from the fire, but don't drown in it either. Sit in the center and watch. Because when you can hold desire in your awareness, without fear, without guilt, without acting on every impulse, it begins to rise. The same energy that once pulled you toward the external world starts moving inward and upward. It becomes creativity, vision, intuition, love. That's why some of the most enlightened beings weren't ascetics hiding from pleasure. They were awakened lovers of life. They didn't kill desire. They purified it. They turned it into prayer. They realized that desire isn't just a human instinct. It's the universe longing to experience itself through you. Think about that. Every time you feel passion, curiosity, attraction, it's not a flaw. It's the divine reaching out saying, wake up. There's more of you to discover, so don't run from desire. Study it, befriend it. Let it show you what's missing within. Because once you understand its language, it no longer controls you. You stop being a slave to your impulses, and instead you become the master of your inner energy. And in that mastery, something beautiful happens. Desire doesn't disappear, it transforms. It stops being about getting and starts being about becoming. You no longer desire to possess. You desire to express. You no longer crave to take. You crave to create. And in that moment you realize the purpose of desire was never to lead you outward. It was to lead you back home. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Inside you burns a current, invisible, electric, alive. You've felt it before in moments of excitement, attraction, inspiration. It's that rush that surges through your spine when life suddenly feels real. That current is your life force, the same energy ancient mystics called prana, chi, or kundalini. Modern science calls it bioenergy. Psychology might call it libido, but names don't matter. The experience does. When you learn to work with that current consciously, you begin to unlock a dimension of power that few ever touch. That's the secret of Tantric alchemy, turning raw life force into spiritual illumination, because energy itself is neutral. It's not good or bad. It simply is. But how you use it determines whether it imprisons you or sets you free. Most people let their energy leak outward. They spend it on endless stimulation, distraction, constant reaction. They chase highs, sexual, emotional, digital, and wonder why they feel drained afterward. They're like candles burning at both ends, mistaking the flicker for the sun. The Tantric path says, stop wasting the fire. Learn to circulate it. Every time you feel desire, tension, or excitement, Don't rush to discharge it. Breathe it, feel it, contain it, because energy that's contained begins to transform. Think of water. When it boils, it creates steam, invisible, powerful, capable of turning turbines and generating electricity. In the same way, when you hold your life force instead of spilling it, it rises, it refines itself. It becomes insight, creativity, magnetism. This isn't superstition, it's energetic physics. The body is a vessel. The mind is the crucible. When awareness and energy meet, alchemy begins. At first it feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. You might feel pressure in your chest, warmth in your belly, a subtle pulse along your spine. These are not signs of something wrong. They are signs of awakening. The body is remembering how to flow again. The ancient adepts practiced breathing, movement, and focus to guide this process. But you don't need rituals to start. You only need presence. When you feel arousal, anger, excitement, any surge of emotion, and instead of reacting, pause. Inhale slowly. Let the sensation spread through your body like light. Notice how the mind wants to name it, to act on it, to escape it. Don't just observe. If you stay with it, something remarkable happens. The energy rises naturally. It travels from the base of the body toward the heart, the throat, the mind. You may feel lighter, more open, more alive. What began as lust turns into warmth. What began as restlessness turns into peace. This is the alchemy of sacred energy, transmuting the dense into the divine. In this state, pleasure no longer drains you. It nourishes you. You stop chasing experiences, because every breath becomes an experience. Every sound, every scent, every heartbeat feels heightened, vivid, sacred. People who live like this radiate a quiet power. They walk into a room and others feel it, not as sexuality but as presence. They're grounded yet luminous. You can sense that they're not controlled by their desires. They're fueled by them. That's real magnetism. It has nothing to do with appearance and everything to do with energy integrity. But be warned, this transformation demands honesty. You cannot fake consciousness. You can't manipulate energy for egoic gain and expect purity. If you try to use this power to dominate or impress, it will corrupt you. The ego loves to steal the language of the soul. True alchemy begins with humility, the recognition that this energy doesn't belong to you. You are its steward, not its owner. It flows through you from a greater source. When you treat it with respect, it reveals its wisdom. It heals the body, sharpens intuition, and aligns you with what is truly meant for you. Life starts to organize itself around your frequency. Synchronicities appear. You meet people who match your vibration. Your creativity blossoms. This isn't magic. It's resonance. When your inner current flows freely, you attract experiences that mirror that freedom. But to live this way, you must cultivate stillness. The world around you will keep tempting you to spend your energy outward, on arguments, gossip, endless scrolling, meaningless pursuits. Every choice becomes a question. Will this expand my energy or scatter it? Tantric alchemy is the art of saying yes only to what expands you. Over time, this awareness becomes natural. You eat differently, breathe differently, love differently. Pleasure becomes subtler but deeper, less about sensation, more about connection. A single touch can feel like a universe unfolding. A gaze can feel like communion. This is not restraint. It's refinement. You're not suppressing life, you're mastering it. And mastery doesn't mean control. It means harmony. Control is fear disguised as strength. Harmony is strength that needs no defense. When your energy harmonizes, mind and body stop fighting each other. You no longer see spirituality as separate from sexuality or work as separate from play. You realize it's all one flow, the same divine current expressing itself in infinite forms. That's the moment of true empowerment. You become a conscious creator, not a reactive consumer. The same force that once pulled you toward fleeting pleasure now propels you toward purpose. The same intensity that once burned you out now lights your way, because energy, when purified, becomes awareness. And awareness, when embodied, becomes love. That's the final stage of Tantric alchemy, when the inner fire that once sought release now becomes radiance, quietly illuminating everyone you touch. You no longer seek to possess pleasure. You become the presence that generates it. You no longer chase ecstasy. You are ecstasy, steady, grounded, awake, and perhaps this is the greatest secret of all. The divine never wanted your denial, only your attention. There comes a point on this path when the search itself begins to dissolve. You've faced the forbidden door. You've remembered the forgotten power of pleasure. You've looked into the mirror of desire and transformed your energy into light. Now there is only one step left, the step that no one can teach you, the step of surrender. Awakening doesn't come as a thunderclap or a flash of celestial fireworks. It comes quietly, like dawn entering through an open window. One morning, you simply realize that the struggle has stopped. The voice that kept asking, "Am I doing it right?" finally falls silent, because you're no longer trying to reach something. You are what you were trying to reach. You start to notice that every moment, every breath, every sound, every movement feels full, almost sacred. You don't have to chase joy. It's already here. You don't have to control life. It flows through you, effortless and kind. This is what the ancients called samadhi, oneness, union. But it isn't some mystical trance. It's the most natural state there is. You've simply peeled away everything that isn't real, and at the heart of what remains is peace. Not the fragile peace of avoidance, but the grounded calm that exists even in chaos. A peace that doesn't depend on what happens next. When you reach this point, pleasure transforms once again. It's no longer about the body at all. It becomes a fragrance that your soul carries, an invisible sweetness that touches everything around you. You find beauty in the ordinary, in the way light rests on a table, in the laughter of a stranger, in the stillness between your own breaths. This is not fantasy. This is presence. You've awakened not from the world, but within it. And now something incredible happens. Your presence begins to change others. You don't need to speak. People feel it. They sense a serenity that words can't fake. They lean in without knowing why. It's not charisma, it's coherence. You've aligned with life itself, and life recognizes its own reflection in you. But make no mistake, awakening isn't the end. It's the beginning of living consciously. You will still feel desire, anger, sadness, temptation, but they will no longer own you. They rise, they pass, and you remain. The sky doesn't vanish because of a storm. It simply lets the clouds move through. That's what inner mastery truly is. It's not about being untouched by life. It's about being unshaken by it. It's the ability to stand in fire without burning, to love without losing yourself, to feel deeply without drowning. At this level, pleasure becomes prayer. Every act, no matter how simple, becomes sacred. Eating, walking, speaking, everything is infused with awareness. You understand that the divine was never hiding in temples or scriptures. It was hiding in your senses, waiting for you to notice. And once you notice, you can never truly forget. When you walk through the world awake, you see how asleep it has become. People rushing, chasing, scrolling, numbing. They're searching for the very thing you've found, but they're looking in the noise instead of the silence. You realize compassion is the only natural response, because you remember when you were them. You remember what it felt like to be lost in the cycle of craving and guilt. So you no longer judge, you simply radiate understanding. And that understanding becomes your gift to the world. You don't need to preach enlightenment. You just live it. You embody it. And by your very being, you remind others what they've forgotten, that they too are divine. Eventually, you see that pleasure, pain, desire, fear, they were all instruments in the same symphony. Each note was guiding you toward recognition. The suffering wasn't punishment, it was purification. The longing wasn't weakness, it was guidance. Everything that ever happened was conspiring to bring you here, to this moment of clarity. And in that realization, gratitude floods in. Gratitude so deep it has no object. You're grateful not for something, but for being. For existing at all. The mind quiets, the heart opens, and life in all its forms begins to reveal its hidden order. You see that even your flaws were sacred, even your mistakes were teachers. You see that there was never anything to fix, only something to remember. This is awakening, the recognition that you were never broken, never lost, never less than divine. You were simply asleep in your own dream, waiting to awaken through the experience of being human. And now that you've awakened, the world itself becomes your temple. The body becomes your altar. Desire becomes your incense. Every moment becomes worship. You finally understand what the Tantric masters meant when they said, the path to God is not up, it is in. And so you stop searching the heavens. You turn inward, into the infinite cathedral of your own being. There you discover that the sacred and the sensual were never separate. They were two wings of the same bird, carrying you toward the freedom of total presence. You breathe in, slowly. You exhale. And in that breath, the illusion of separation collapses. You realize that everything you've ever loved, longed for or feared, was simply life inviting you back to itself. So here, at the end of this journey, there is nothing to do, only to be. To live each day as a conscious celebration of existence. To love as if love itself were your nature. To touch the world gently, but leave a trace of awareness wherever you go. Because awakening doesn't make you special. It makes you real. It makes you human again, fully, fearlessly, divinely human. And maybe, just maybe, that's what the universe wanted all along. For you to remember that the same energy that once burned as desire now shines as light within your soul. So breathe, smile, feel the pulse of life moving through you. You are not separate from it. You never were. You are the awakening itself, disguised as a human, learning, loving, remembering again and again through the infinite dance of pleasure and presence.